very warm welcome to your weekly program of Tonga this week. Making headlines, Her Royal Highness Princess Mele Siuluktapuka Nivalfotafili officially opens a one-day program for women. Members of the Legislative Assembly did not support the resignation of the acting Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. New Zealand Chief of Defence arrives in Nuku'alofa to hold talks with Tonga Defence Services, and Westpac Bank branches in Hawaii and Mavao has been shut down. There will also be other news stories later on in this program. Now for the news in details, I'm Fatai Whaingaha. Her Royal Highness Princess Mele Siuluktapuka Nivalfotafili officially opened a one-day program of the Ma'awhawhine Moi Family Organisation. The program aims to put an end to violence against women through transformational leadership approaches. Anasi Falekano was at the event and filed this report.
The theme of the program is Be Happy and Willing to Make a Difference. In the Guest of Honor's official opening remarks, Her Royal Highness Princess Siuluktapu emphasized the importance of the moral life of Tongan women and also the uniqueness of human lives. The moral life of a nation shows in the lives of its women, knowing what is right and wrong. The difference is people have a conscience. We know the difference between good and bad, and light and dark, and this should be seen as we attend church every Sunday. The director of the Ma'awhawhine Moi family, Betty Blake, thanked the guest of honor for her support in the initiative and sharing her experiences by working the grassroots level. Mrs. Blake adds that such programs are heart-lifting and helps build up the women. In previous gatherings and workshops, we have a prayer before inviting the participants to share and talk about their experiences without judging anyone. We create a good environment to invite sharing and embrace everyone who participates. That is the same thing we want to see today. The participants are representatives from various government ministries, civil society, and non-government organizations. This is the completion for Phase 1 for the program. Phase 2 will be carried out to the communities. This program is currently funded by the UN Women and the Ma'awhawhine Moi family. Reporting from the Fofo'anga Hall, I'm Anasi Falekano for Television Tonga News.
The members of the Legislative Assembly did not support the resignation of the acting Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Lord Tuihateho, from his post as Deputy Speaker of the House on Wednesday. His resignation was made while he's the acting Speaker of the House, where the Speaker of the House, Lord Fafanua, was overseas. Lord Tuihateho's announcement of his resignation from the post brought a surprise reaction from the members of the House. His reason was because he felt he could not longer carry out his duty accordingly. He said that the government serves the people and the people deserve to have the best people to carry out their interest. He told the House he found it difficult to carry out his role and apologized for any mistakes and shortfalls he may have made while serving the country and will resign from his post of Deputy Speaker of the House. In response, the Vava'u's Noble's representative, number 2, Lord Tuilakepa, appealed to the acting Speaker to continue in his post as he has the full support of the members of the House. Meanwhile, the Minister of Justice, Clive Edwards, told the House he understands why the Deputy Speaker wants to resign, which is because of his banding case before the court regarding alleged illegal possession of firearms. However, the Justice Minister says no ruling has been made yet regarding Lord Tuihateho's case, and if a ruling is made and the acting Speaker's sentence is not more than 2 years, this should not affect his post or duties at all. The Justice Minister adds that some of the members of Parliament, including him and Cabinet Ministers, had appeared in court for different reasons, and this is the court ruling which will determine their fate in Parliament. After the morning break during the parliamentary deliberations, Lord Tuihateho withdrew his resignation. Parliamentary deliberations continued to other issues, including the Committee of the Whole House deliberating on the Family Protection Bill 2013 up until it breaks for lunch. Parliament has resumed deliberations this afternoon, and it has been broadcast live from Radio Tonga 1 and 2. Real Tonga Airlines suffers up to 60,000 paanga in costs over the cancellation of tickets from New Zealand tourists who do not want to travel on Tonga's domestic aircraft DMA-60. The loss is blamed on a travel advisory from the New Zealand Foreign Minister, Murray McCully, saying the DMA-60 is not in a satisfactory state to resume operation.
Real Tonga's new airfare rates for its domestic flights will only be used for the MA60 aircraft. It is different from the airfare rates applied for the other 3 aircrafts that they are operating. According to the Chief Executive Officer of the airline, David Tapalu, the reason between the differences in the airfares is to be able to look after each aircraft. Real Tonga Airline is currently leasing the MA60 aircraft from the government, which is scheduled for domestic operations between Tongatapu and Vava'o. Mr. Palu said the new airfares will begin from 225 pa'anga for one way. The CEO of Real Tonga says this is the outcome of the discussions between the airline and the government. We worked together with the government aiming to help the people. What the government wants is similar to what we want, and that is to offer fares that people can afford. The government hopes to reduce the airfare rates to make it much cheaper and at the same time to be able to operate the airline in terms of finance. Mr. Panu said when discussing the new fares, they also reviewed other factors. The nature of people travelling is seasonal from January to December. There are busy times, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes the flights are directional, like there are many people flying into Vava'o, and then there aren't so many coming back to Tonga. Sometimes most of the passengers are children, and there are times that there are more adults. When it's like this, then we put up a policy to balance it out throughout the year. The only way we think to balance that out is to put a condition for the airfares to be able to control it and still generate money to help operate the airline and its aircraft. The CEO of the airline emphasized that they are doing their very best in terms of their airfare rates for the people and at the same time to generate money to keep the aircraft flying. Although the MA60 is only scheduled to fly between Tongatapu and Vava'o, but work is underway to include the island of Hawaii in that schedule.
The Westpac Bank of Tonga branches in Hawaii and Ewa has been closed down starting Friday, August 30th. Westpac Bank of Tonga reveals this to Radio Tonga News this week. Sinlato reports.
The Westpac Bank of Tonga believes that this will not cause any inconvenience to its customers, mainly in the islands of Hawaii and Vava'o, where the branches will shut down. However, they take on another step as to working together with the Tonga Development Bank, and the Tonga Development Bank will be their agent in these islands who will carry out their usual tasks. Meanwhile, in a radio program of the Ministry of Education and Training, the ministry has informed and warned their teachers in regards to the matter. Westpac Bank of Tonga has also confirmed that some of its staff has moved to Tongatapu, and while others who have lost their jobs have been given several packages. Television Tonga News tried to get information as to why these branches have been shut down, but after contacting the office, they've said that they will not release any other information as to why the bank will shut down until the general manager, Dennis Quayle, will return from overseas. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sinla Tu from the office of the Westpac Bank of Tonga in Nuku'alofa.
The International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO has announced that the issue regarding the MA60 aircraft is a bilateral issue between Tonga and New Zealand. The issue involves the MA60 aircraft gifted from China to the Kingdom. That's according to information from the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, Honourable Sami Waipulu. According to the Deputy Prime Minister, Sami Waipulu, he says he already met with officials from ICAO at the organisation's regional office in Bangkok. The Deputy Prime Minister says during the meeting, the officials from the ICAO reveals that New Zealand is only concerned with the type of aircraft, the MA60, but not the airworthiness code that Tonga has adopted. Meanwhile, Mr. Waipulu told the gathering in Bangkok they're not seeking ICAO's involvement, but their approval regarding the type of certificate for the MA60 aircraft. During the meeting, the Deputy Prime Minister says they've requested the Pacific Aviation Safety Organisation, or PASO, and also to Singapore to review Tonga's process. The Director of Tonga Civil Aviation, Willie Koka, is travelling together with the Deputy Prime Minister to attend the meetings overseas in regards of the MA60 aircraft. Moreover, the Deputy Prime Minister Sami Vaipulu will meet the Chinese civil aviation authorities today and tomorrow to look at two Y-12 aircraft for Tonga. The same company who constructed the MH-60 aircraft is expected to construct the Y-12 aircraft. In the meantime, according to information from the Managing Director of a tourism enterprise, Moorings Tonga, at New Zealand, a New Zealand man, Shane Walker, told Radio Tonga News that after receiving a travel advisory from New Zealand's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Murray McCully, it has affected the tourist operators in the kingdom, especially in Vava'o. According to Mr. Walker, there are not enough evidence provided regarding the safety standard of the MH-60 and its domestic operations in Tonga. Mr. Walker says if New Zealand is concerned over the MH-60 aircraft, a particular type of aircraft is operated in 21 countries worldwide, Tonga included. However, New Zealand is not putting forth the same travel advisory to the rest of the 20 countries, but only for Tonga. Mr. Walker believes that this has affected Tonga's tourism industry and will slowly affect Tonga's economy in the future. Also, Mr. Walker has pledged his commitment to take legal action regarding this matter. Meanwhile, another concern has been raised in regards to the Y-12 aircraft that are operated by Air Vanuatu. It is believed that the same company who constructed the MH-60 aircraft constructed the Y-12 aircraft in Vanuatu. The concern comes after New Zealand approves Vanuatu's request to become its major source of tourism funding. New Zealand Foreign Minister Murray McCully have met with the Prime Minister of Vanuatu, Moanaka Curses, in Port Vila during an unveiling ceremony of a commemorative plug to mark the beginning of the inter-islands shipping services in Vanuatu. During the unveiling ceremony, Mr. McCully announced New Zealand's pledge to present a $13 million assistance to Vanuatu to boost its tourism sector. The assistance aims at improving the shipping services to the outer islands, enabling the tourists to travel to other remote islands. Several local media were invited on a demonstration flight of the Real Tonga Airlines MH-60 aircraft from Tongatapu to Vava'u on Thursday. The trip was prompted by concerns raised over the security and worthiness of the aircraft. The MH-60 aircraft is a gift from the Chinese government to Tonga. Our Television Tonga News cameraman, Temsiane Mani, and reporter Silatu were on board the flight and filed this report.
Demonstration flight for the local media is a routine flight from Tongatapu to Vava'u. Real Tonga Airlines MH-60 aircraft has received criticism over the security of the MH-60 aircraft. New Zealand's Foreign Affairs Minister, Murray McCully, has expressed his doubt over the security of the aircraft and questioned whether it's fit to fly. Several paid passengers were also on today's flight from Tongatapu to Vava'u who shared their views on the flight.
No, the flight was very good. It was professionally run and they did all the things an airline should be doing, and so it was quite enjoyable. Everything was good, no problem.
Oh yeah, it was fine. It was professional, and I felt great. The flight was smooth, comfortable. Can't complain.
The flight was comfortable. Everyone was very attentive, very good. It was a very good flight.
The positive feedback from the passengers on the security of the flight opposes initial warnings and skepticism over the MH-60's flights. For Television Tonga News, I'm Silatu.
The funds for the Tonga energy projects are managed and audited by its donor partners, according to the Chief Executive Officer of the Tonga Energy Roadmap, or TERM, Inokebala Finau. The production cost of such projects is also audited by the donor partner. Kalisitu Nuku tells you more.
The CEO of the Tonga Energy Roadmap, Inoke Finau, says that TERM focuses on injecting funds into Tonga by completing the requirement set out by Overseas Tonga. However, such funds are not given to TERM but are injected directly to the company which will manage and implement the project. The comment made after Radio Australia questioned the responsibility of the Auditor General Pohivatu Onitoa regarding the funds from overseas donors to TERM. Where is the money? It's with the World Bank, Reserve Bank and the Asian Development Bank. In order to activate the fund, we have to meet the requirement laid out by donor partners. For example, if 5% of a project has been completed, the recipient sign an agreement in the presence of a witness to release the fund. Other processes follow, including the auditing and monitoring of the project. There are also funds from World Bank, but they have their own processes to be followed. Mr. Finau adds that there are procedures to be followed regarding fund release from donor partners. The final approval in signing to release funds for a project is made from the Treasury Department. Those funds go directly to the project or company implementing the project. There is another project from World Bank and it needs auditing, and we're moving toward that. On the other hand, Mr. Finau said the operational fund from donor for a certain project will go directly to the Treasury Department, which is audited by the Auditor General. The Treasury Department also confirmed this to Television Tonga News. In addition, Mr. Finau said TERM does not have a set budget, but receives its funding from a vote from the Ministry of Land, Survey and Natural Resources. These funds are also audited by Government's Audit Department. A government board has been formed to monitor this and chaired by the Prime Minister Lord Devano, the Minister of Land, Survey and Natural Resources and the Finance Minister. A working committee was also formed to monitor and is made up of 7 members who are all chief executive officers from different government ministries.
The 15% hike in the duty and excise tax on tobacco is part of an attempt to reduce numbers of local tobacco consumers. This is according to the Honourable Minister of Inland Revenue, Police, Fire Department and Prison, Sosifa Totafaiva, in an interview with Radio and Television Tonga News. Silato with more on that story.
The tax hike in tobacco was initiated to reduce the risk of non-communicable diseases due to consuming of tobacco, such as cancer. Many have argued that this new hike is the government's initiative to generate more income to its economy, but this is part of their move to reduce numbers of vulnerabilities to non-communicable diseases, or NCDs. Our target for this new fiscal year alone is estimated at 126 million pa'anga. However, our profit in the last financial year has exceeded this amount, in which we collected more than 128 million pa'anga. The minister says it has been evident that billions of dollars have been spent on treating tobacco-related diseases. Tobacco manufacturers earn more than $1 billion every year from the tobacco consumers, which are a great loss for the family's income. Such expenses should have been allocated on other important matters rather than treating tobacco-related patients. The minister says this is part of his presentation to the 10th Asia-Pacific Conference on Tobacco that was held in Tokyo, Japan. The minister was invited to the meeting by the World Health Organization, WHO, to speak on Tonga's standards on tobacco-related risks. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sinilato.
Tonga will earn more than $1 million pa'anga on this year's squash pumpkin exportation to foreign markets. This is according to the Honourable Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Food and Fisheries in an interview with Radio and Television Tonga. Anasi Falekano with the details.
In a special visit to the squash cultivated area yesterday, the Honourable Minister witnessed many developments in this sector. Speaking to Radio and Television Tonga News, Honourable Singstar Saulala says this year's squash pumpkin products will earn more than $1 million pa'anga. Tonga is still less fortunate due to the unused land in the kingdom. This shows how many are not willing to either cultivate or use the land for farming. However, I have high hopes of this year's squash products that it will bring millions to Tonga's economy. As part of the government effort to ensure that this sector continues, they've assisted the squash exporters and growers financially. This is one of the reasons why the government and the parliament put aside 1 million pa'anga for the squash growers and offered 400,000 pa'anga each to the growers to help prepare the squash products. The minister adds that squash product is one of the main economic activities that have generated a lot of income to the growers and the government's economy. There are only 3 squash growers in Tonga and their main market is in Japan. Nasi Falegano for Television Tonga News.
New Zealand's Chief of Defence, Lieutenant General Rhys Jones, arrived in Nuku'alofa on Thursday morning with his wife and 10 senior officials from New Zealand's Defence Force. Lieutenant General Jones was on a goodwill visit to the kingdom and has held defence talks with Tonga Defence Commander Brigadier General Tauaika Utaatu. Upon arrival at the Taliai camp in Whamotu, New Zealand's Chief of Defence, Lieutenant General Rhys Jones, was welcomed by Tonga Defence Force Commander Brigadier General Tauaika Utaatu. During a welcome program, the Tonga Defence officers performed the traditional haka for the guest and his visiting team. Lieutenant General Rhys Jones also attended the handover ceremony of assistance from the New Zealand, Australian and British Defence Attaché to Tonga. During his visit, the priority issues discussed will surround training opportunities for the Tongan soldiers and other defence-related matters. This is part of both the government's attempt to strengthen its bilateral ties. Lieutenant General Rhys Jones was welcomed at Whamotu International Airport by Lord Vehala of Tonga Defence, New Zealand's High Commissioner Mark Talbot, Lieutenant Commander Brisbane Lokotui and other government officials. A mother and his brother have appeared at the Magistrate Court on Monday afternoon after being charged of an alleged manslaughter. Both the accused appeared at the Fasimayafi Court, with Chief Magistrate Salesimafi presiding. Kalistuyo Nuku followed up this case and filed this report.
The 34-year-old mother, Fifita Ofa, and her brother, the 37-year-old Tomasi Ofa of Waitongo, were alleged of manslaughter, have appeared at the Magistrate Court. This was in relation to the death of the 14-year-old girl that passed away in Viola on the 16th of this month. The third accused was arrested and charged on the same case was the 42-year-old woman, Mohulamu Tomohuni of Maufanga. She has been allegedly of abetting to commit a crime. It is believed that Mohulamu is the partner of the deceased's father. The trial has been adjourned until September 30th. The trio are on bail with 1,000 pa'anga and 2 sureties each. Teisina Fifita was the counsel for the 3 accused. In a separate case from the same court, the 16-year-old Dave Isoa Kanongata of Hofoa, who has been alleged for manslaughter, appeared at the Magistrate Court. This relates to the death of his 19-year-old brother, Kulisi Kanongata, on September 16th. In the meantime, the 55-year-old Taulani Langoia of Utulau was also alleged for abetting of a crime. Dave Kanongata'a appeared alone while Langoia is currently admitted to the psychiatric ward in Viola. Both the accused have been given a 1,000 pa'anga each on bail with 2 sureties each. Langoia will reappear in court on September 30th. Dave and the deceased are from 9 children of Lamona and Fileti Kanongata'a of Hofoa. For Television Tonga News, I'm Kalisi Tuyonuku.
The editor and publisher of Galea newspaper have been pronounced guilty on Friday for contempt of court and will be sentenced on September 12, 2013. Chief Justice Michael Scott delivered the judgment at the Supreme Court. The application was filed by the Attorney General Neil Adzed against Mateni and Lautalata Polelu over an opinion made by the editor Mateni in regards to a ruling of a civil case. That was between the editor and publisher of the Galea newspaper, and Solomon Palo against 7 government ministers. The Attorney General filed that the opinion piece is an alleged contempt of court. Mr. Adzed represented himself, but the Solicitor General appears on his behalf, while Siona Etika acts as legal counsel for Mateni and Lautalata Polelu, but none of them appears when the judgment was delivered. A Malimali program in oral health has seen many achievements in its dental care activities, including a decrease in problems among primary school students in the islands of Abao and Hapai. Sinlatu has the details.
These are the Ha'teho and De'ekio government primary school students as they take part in the Malimali program and use fluoride to brush their teeth. According to the oral pathology specialist at the Viola Hospital, Dr. Fusi Fifita, the program has made a positive impact in reducing dental caries or cavities in the teeth of children. The program was recognized in a 2007 survey They carried out in 10 primary schools which participated in the Mali Mali program. Another survey was carried out in 2011. A survey carried out in 2000 identified a lot of dental caries in children's teeth. On average, dental problems were found in 4 to 5 teeth in 12-year-olds. A 2011 survey carried out by the South Pacific Medical Team found more than 90% of all the primary schools in Tonga showed much improvement as a result of the fluoride mouth rinse program provided by the South Pacific Media Team. This has brought down the numbers of dental caries to 1 or 2. The Mali Mali program is managed by Dr. Sayuri Kawamura from the South Pacific Medical Team.
Our first and second projects were a success. So that's now project Mali Mali program is advancing and continue. So because Tongan's dental staff of Mali Mali team were independent from our support to and their work is very, very beautiful. We want to help the people of Tonga to stay healthy and look after their oral health. NCD is a problem in the Tonga, so we want to help from our oral health side to decrease the risky factors of NCD.
As a result of this success, the program has been extended, focusing on improving adults' lifestyle approach from oral health in the Kingdom of Tonga or non-communicable diseases like diabetes. It isn't only dental decay that we're concerned about, but when a child grows older, there will be the risk of other diseases. From here on, we will start providing information on this issue as a preventive strategy, so they can avoid the risk of other diseases, which will in turn affect their oral health. This approach also relates to minimizing non-communicable diseases, especially diabetes. Diabetes and dental problems are related. The Mali Mali program was initiated when Lord Tangia Vanukanuka was the health minister.
The laying of the first foundation for Tupou High School's memorial building to commemorate the school's Golden Jubilee was led by the General Secretary of the Free Wesleyan Church of Tonga, Reverend Dr. Devita Havea, and followed by ex-students. Bononga Veikoso has this report.
This is the completion of the laying of the first foundation of Tupou High School's memorial building to commemorate the Golden Jubilee, and will also be a new office for the staff and a storage for the equipment. The construction of the memorial building is estimated around 500,000 pa'anga, funded by the ex-students and money collected from the school celebration. Speaking to Radio and Television Tonga News, the principal of Tupou High School, Reverend Tupulotu Finau, says the building will be very useful, for it will provide a new working office. The building is one-story building. The bottom floor will be a lab science and a storage for the school equipment, and the top floor will be the staff's offices. Reverend Tupulotu says funding of the construction is also by the money collected from the school day celebration. Funding the construction is also the money that the school collected from the school celebration. Bills were paid and other school needs were provided. The leftovers were used for the construction. The building is located at the school's Valoloa branch. The work is expected to be completed before the school celebration next year.
And that wraps up Tonga This Week for tonight. Thanking you all for watching. I'm Fatai Whaingaa. Have a pleasant evening.